Mrs. Johnson, I called you into this meeting because I'm going to have you start performing tests on your second grade students to try and identify Fragile X syndrome.
I don't think it's ethical to test children without their parents' consent, and I don't have medical training to determine which kids are abnormal.
School district will put you through some trainings to help identify the behaviors and symptoms of a student having Fragile X syndrome.
I'm not a doctor. Just a few trainings won't prepare me to identify kids who might have Fragile X syndrome.
I'm not asking you to be a doctor. I'm simply asking you to give us a list of students who are showing erratic behaviors or learning disabilities that might indicate a student having Fragile X syndrome.
Well, either way, the parents should know and give permission if their children are going to be used in a study.
We might get too much resistance from parents who are in denial that their child has a problem.
Children might get treated differently, and the parents and children could become depressed if they found out.
If these children are identified, they could get the extra support they need from the school, their families, and the community.
If a child does end up having Fragile X syndrome, they might get singled out by their peers.
The study would be for the best interest of the children. It could educate the adults how to support these children. It can make the country more aware of the disease.
So we're here today to talk about case study 4B, a teacher's dilemma. There's a disease, Fragile X syndrome, that can be identified in children. And the principal of the school has come forward and asked one of his teachers, Mr. Sandra Johnson, to identify some of her students. And she doesn't feel like it's an ethical thing to do because the parents don't know what's going on. So she thinks parents should get consent about it. And I know the principal has different ideas. Do you remember what some of those were?
Yeah, I mean, well, if they did have the Fragile X syndrome, then the children might get the extra support they might need from the schools, their families, and the community.
Okay.
But the children might also feel like they're being singled out if they're being chosen by a teacher to be put in a survey instead of being chosen randomly.
Yeah, and another concern of the teacher was that she didn't think she had the training, because she's not a medical doctor, to determine whether these students had Fragile X syndrome or not. She's kind of concerned about what kind of qualifications she would need to determine this.
Okay, well, the principal wasn't asking Mrs. Johnson to be a doctor. The principal was simply asking her to give him a list of students who are showing erratic behaviors or learning disabilities.
Yeah, and I think one of her concerns was it might not be Fragile X syndrome. It can be, there's many reasons why kids have behavior issues in school, like ADHD and other things. So I think she's kind of thinking that if she puts students out there, that it might kind of put a stigma on the students and they might be treated differently.
And the parents would probably agree with the teachers, like they would want to know if their children are going to be used in a study, and they'd want to give consent.
Yeah, I don't think I would want my child to be, identified by a teacher that doesn't have medical training in their classroom. So, I can see the principal's point in wanting all the children to be successful and get the help they need, but I just don't think that's the place. I think the parents should be taking their kids to their own medical doctors to find out what's wrong with them.
Oh, okay.